Welcome to Three Brothers and a Shot of Milk, minus the three brothers. Now, I think I'm doing this right. All right. So, happy Mother's Day, everyone. This is Three Brothers and a Shot of Milk. We're talking TV, movies, video games, comic books, and so much more. Lawrence and Chris are out with family stuff. Rich is out with family stuff. And everything was a little last minute, so I felt I should still jump on here and say Happy Mother's Day. This is going to be a very brief episode, but here's an episode all the same. We're talking X-Men 97 today, and we're just going to talk about episode 9, and it's going to be a quick recap. Now, if you're live in the chat, I think I should see you. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Okay, so maybe we'll get some chat stuff on. I don't typically run this segment of it, so it should be entertaining. Let me start with my week. Jack, how was your week? Let's see. Jack, how was my week? Okay. My week was good. I worked a lot this week. I watched the DC Crisis on Infinite Earths, and I gotta tell you, I was a little underwhelmed by it, to be honest. Unfortunately, there's literally a section in it where a car is thrown and Superman dodges the car because he didn't want to get hit by it. And I'm sitting here going, yeah, but would he just catch it or something? Whatever. And Flash spends most of that content running around in circles, jumping from one thing to the next. I don't know. Woo, woo, ETC in the house. Now, ETC. Let's see. Can I get these things on here? Yeah, woo, woo, ETC in the house. And we got S in the house also, party. Now, ETC, I got a question for you, man. Are the Northern Lights just insane in Alaska right now? Answer in the chat. All right, so we're talking X-Men today, so I wanted to show off some X-Men stuff. We're specifically talking X-Men 97, so I'm going to show off some content stuff, and I'll tell you about my week while I'm doing it. Desiree in the house. Hello, everyone. She must be talking to the chat because there's only me here today. So here's some Desiree in the house. She says hello to everyone watching. And ETC says he's in Anchorage, so he hasn't really seen any of the Northern Lights. Man, that's too bad. He also says if you want to see the Northern Lights, you got a little further outside Anchorage. Well, my brother is in Washington, and he managed to see some of the Northern Lights on Friday. Said they were pretty spectacular. All right, so here's some X-Men stuff I'm showing. Now, these are just the packages to the cards that dropped in 95. I'll show you the cards in a little bit. Anyone who had the chance of... So listen, I'm just going to jump into spoilers. The show will be a little all over the place today due to the nature of what's going on. So spoilers for X-Men 97 Episode 9, Extinction... Tolerance is Extinction, Part 2. And that's what we'll be talking about today. So I'll jump back and forth on that content. So here's some X-Men stuff. I'll be flashing X-Men memorabilia while I talk about the show. It's going to be a short episode. Here we go with the recap. Connie Alaska in the house. She loves me. Well, how's that not the case? All right. So the end of episode 8 ends with Magneto basically wipes out all electricity on the planet. He blacks out the planet. He basically sends the planet back to the Stone Age, right? And Charles Xavier crash lands, and he's like, "To me, my X-Men," and then he blacks out because he's exhausted. So, such a great episode. Such a great episode. Now, here's where episode 9 starts. We have cities of people are just like frozen, right? Because they're half Sentinel, half people that, what's the guy's name? Bastion had turned into like Sentinel people. So they're just frozen in like suspended animation because Magneto wiped out everything, in addition to everything just being completely wiped out. This is the Asteroid M story. I'm pretty sure is playing out here, right? He basically makes a giant asteroid that he takes into outer space, where we have the nice showdown about to happen. Charles is in a normal wheelchair because his nice one's broken. Magneto forms the asteroid, right? He goes to a cliff overlooking the ocean and he pulls all this stuff out of the ocean. He makes his asteroid home thing. Storm and Forge have officially teamed up. Remember, we have... Now, what's cool about this episode also is we have everyone's going to go back to their real classic X-Men look. I wish I'd pulled out that comic book I'd show you right now. But there's that classic X-Men look. That's the cover where they introduce like Storm for the first time and some of the other X-Men. I think it's the first time we got Wolverine in the X-Men, like officially. So they all end up kind of going back to that classic X-Men look during the course of this episode. Cyclops confronts Charles. He's like, "What were you thinking giving the X-Men over to Magneto?" And Charles is like, "Man, I wanted you to have a normal life. I'm sorry." Boo-hoo-hoo. And then Cyclops basically not having it, and he storms off. Rogue, she eventually wakes up. Remember, she's been passed out since the Sentinel dude cold-cocked her. Speaking of Wolverine, CTC says, speaking of Wolverine, did you see the new picture of Hugh Jackman with the mask on? No, I have not, but I shall be pulling that up. Probably going to do it while we're talking right here, ETC. Here, guys, this is happening in real time. Hugh Jackman with the Wolverine mask on. All right. It looks a little funny. It looks a little funny, but it looks good too. Don't get me wrong. It looks good. Now, what did we think was going to happen? Is this real? This almost looks like it's Photoshop. No, I guess it's real. No, this is Photoshop. I'm looking at a Photoshop version of it. There's no way this is real. Someone Photoshopped what I'm looking at. No, I guess I haven't seen the real mask yet. Or have I? Okay, sorry. I know you're looking at the top of my head here and we're talking, but this is the only version of the mask I've found that you can't really see too well on this, but it looks kind of cool. Oh, IMDb. Yeah, that would probably be a way better place to check it out. All right, I'll check it out after the show, though. I assume it's some version of that. Okay, so wait. So then what happens? All right, so the X Mansion has just completely been obliterated. It's in ruins. Earth's magnetic field has been compromised due to what Magneto did. So I don't know how they calculated this, but they basically say in 12 hours' time, the damage to Earth's magnetic field will be irreparable and or irreversible. Irreparable. It'll be irreversible, and the planet will start to decay or spin off its axis. So there's a real finite amount of time going on, and I'm just knocking stuff down. So see if I can find some of this stuff here. What's cool about this series is it's all just straight 90s look. So I'll pull out some cards. We got gold team and red team. Blue team and gold team. The X-Men divide into, and half of the teams are going to go deal with Bastion, and the other half of the team is going to go deal with Magneto, right? And the world's going to end in 12 hours. Now, Rogue wakes up, and she's pissed, and she's mad at Charles, and she's mad at the whole situation. Because, basically Charles treat them all like students and not like humans was kind of part of her conflict there. And Magneto shows up to the mansion with his asteroid in tow and basically says, I'm tired of living the way we've been living, and I'm going to do something about it. And anyone who wants to get involved on that side of history, come with me. Rogue jumps on board that, and Sunspot jumps on board. I think his name's Sunspot. Sunspot jumps on board, and they go with Magneto. And Rogue says something kind of interesting. She's like, none of you were there when Genosha fell, which is a little unsatisfying because Nightcrawler was there, and Nightcrawler had kind of been living there when they established Genosha. So I don't know, Rogue. You might have been a little wrong about that one. So basically, Magneto draws a line in the sand, right? The X-Men suit. This is where the X-Men suit up. So they go to whatever Mirror Island or whatever, wherever it is, and they suit up, and they all start putting on their classic costumes. See if I can pull up some pictures for you guys. Oh man, it's about to go down. We're streaming live here. This is about to go down. So we got, yeah, this is literally kind of what Forge is looking like when they suit up and go for battle. That's not really what Wolverine is looking like when they suit up for go for battle. And all right, let's see. So Bastion. So they split up in teams and they go fight him. Now Bastion is controlling a certain amount of the Sentinels because he's what do they call him? A technopath, which basically means he has telepathy with machines, so he's able to turn the Sentinels back on. And so when I believe it's Gold Team goes after Bastion, and they're just kind of getting it handed to them, and Blue Team goes up to Magneto. All right, so a big fight ensues, obviously. Now, here are some cool highlights. Spoiler, Morph turns into the Incredible Hulk. So the Incredible Hulk we know exists. We've seen Captain America already. So what's nice is they're really kind of going back and forth, and they're letting us have the bigger Marvel picture a little bit in here without really, commit to the Marvel storylines, the X-Men storyline. But Morph turns into the Hulk and starts wrecking havoc on the Sentinels, which is really cool. I'm like, why doesn't he just turn into the Hulk all the time? There's a really cool line where Storm says to Jean, or rather, Jean says to Storm, "Let them mind your weather, sister," because they're about to, throw down, and Storm echoes back, "And them weather your mind." So that was a nice thing. Let them mind your weather, sister, and them weather your mind. It's a little Shakespearean-esque. Forge and Storm fight Sentinels in the sky, while I believe it's Morph, Jean, and Bishop are on the ground, and Beast are on the ground. Bishop and Beast. And what's cool about that is, well, then Mr. Sinister shows up and he starts manipulating Cable to go after Jean, and Mr. Sinister's fighting Jean. Beast makes a attack on Bastion. He's forted. Here we go. So here's some of kind of the team playing out, Of course, Cyclops is up on the asteroid at this point. We don't really see these characters. Of course, we see this showdown is about to happen between Magneto and Wolverine, which is fun. So the X-Men, the other half of the X-Men, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, Cyclops, Jubilee, and Charles show up on the asteroid. And Charles is trying to talk, and Magneto's not really having it, so he basically says, "Hey man, shut up." He says, "I've been wanting to say this for a long time. Shut up." And he's got a great delivery. Okay, I'm beating around the bush. The episode's not too long. It's about a half hour long, so I'm not going to spend an hour talking about it. Here's what happens. That's pretty much the whole episode, with the exception of the last 5 minutes. So here's what happens in the last 5 minutes. ETC says, would have been nice to have seen Deadpool make an appearance. Well, there's still one episode left. I'll say that. There is still one episode. I think there's still one episode left. Shoot, this wasn't the finale, was it? Yo, talk about not being prepared, Jack. Was episode 9 the finale? I thought there were 10 episodes. If it was the finale, it's a good finale, but it ends really abruptly. So Charles says we have to get Magneto's helmet off so I can take control of him and stop what's going on. Cyclops is having a little bit of reservations because Jean is sending Cyclops a telekinesis image of what's going on down there, and they need more time. Wolverine attacks Magneto. Magneto blasts him, but Wolverine manages to get the helmet off. And the second the helmet's off, Xavier's like on Magneto. And it's a little anime-esque. The way the fighting is depicted in this one is pretty cool, the way it's drawn. But Magneto's just rocked. And Charles has got him in his death grips, right? And he's taking control of it. And in that moment, Cyclops blasts Charles' chair, poof, severing his psychic link to Magneto. Just long enough for Magneto to regain the upper hand in the situation. So Magneto throws his helmet onto Charles and starts crushing his head. He wrangles all the rest of the mutants, including any of the mutants on his team. So Rogue and Sunspot, he basically traps all of them. ETC says, Tolerance is Extinction Part 3 is next week. So there is one more episode. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. ETC, I hope you've watched part 9, and I'm not ruining all this. Although this content is from the 90s, so it's not like, it's funny, I was talking to my mom, and she goes, I've seen this. And I was like, nah, Ma, you haven't seen this. You're aware of the story, because the story's, from the 90s comics and stuff, and you've seen some of this stuff play out live action and other content, but you haven't seen this. But similar stuff, like she knows the story. All right, so I hope I'm not spoiling it. Now what happened? Okay, so Magneto gets the upper hand for a second, and he basically locks everybody down. He got them all tied up and strapped up and whatnot. Except for squirrely little Wolverine. He somehow managed to miss Wolverine in all of the action. Or I guess he thought Wolverine was knocked out or something, but Wolverine's wide awake. And he sneaks up behind Magneto, and I think he kind of gets him from like behind, and it's sticking out the side of his ribs, though. It's not like he goes straight behind him. It's like behind him at an angle. And you got to remember, Wolverine's claws, I believe, are like almost 16 inches or something like that. They're supposed to be. They're long. So they completely impale Magneto. And Magneto's spitting out blood. And everyone is shocked by what's just transpired. And Wolverine says some kind of war, something about war, like damn facts. Yo, we got a new person in the house. Georgie. Georgie? Georgie? Welcome to the show, Georgie. Damn fact. Well, listen, here's the damn fact. So Wolverine sneaks up behind him and basically guts him like a fish real quick. And he's holding there with his claws through him, and he's real tight up on his ear, and he says something about war, like casualties on both sides or something about war. And Magneto says something along the lines of, thanks for ending this feud. And then Magneto kind of does this. Wolverine is shot back. Things get real hairy, man. Because it's that classic moment where we've all seen depicted, and I gotta be honest, I never thought I'd see it play out in my lifetime, but here I was watching the adamantium torn from Wolverine's body in the classic Fatal Attractions. And that's pretty much what it looks like. It's pretty much what they look like. They took that image of Wolverine suspended in midair with all the adamantium just being like ripped from his body, and everyone's looking on in horror, and I'm looking on like, whoa! I'll be honest, I watched the episode twice. The first time I was a little... Here's the other one. This is that classic Fatal Attractions. And I'm sorry for the shine. And that's pretty much exactly what we get in the content. We get the adamantium pulled from Wolverine's body, and the look of horror and shock on everyone's face as it's happening, and Xavier like, no, don't do it. And then it smashes to black. It was a little underwhelming for me the first time, but it's a really good episode. They're just crammed, so much is crammed into 30 minutes. I mean, it's really moving fast. And so it almost feels like you're getting a Cliff Notes version of the story playing out. That makes sense. But it's a good story. And, this leads to a funny, some funny stuff for Wolverine in the comics afterwards. After this happens is when they find out. And now remember, Wolverine's like, he's not dead. He's pretty dead, but he's not dead after this. His body goes into a kind of cryo state. Remember, they like put him in a vat of some sort of liquid thing, and they just let him heal up for months and months and months. And eventually he heals back together. And what they found out was the adamantium, this is after this incident is where they found out that the adamantium was laced over his skeleton, and that the claws were always there. And that's when he gets bone claws for the first time in the comics, was after this event. Now, I'll tell you something funny. The person who created Wolverine originally said the claws were originally just supposed to be like things in his gloves. They were like a weapon in his gloves. And it wasn't until several episodes later where someone else kind of took the helm and they made the backstory where the claws were a part of Wolverine. And so this is where the backstory continues, and they go, no, over the adamantium, there's claws under the adamantium. Bone claws. But what was odd about that to me in the comics is the bone claws were like round spikes. They're like spike claws. But the adamantium is a razor sharp knife. So I was never really sure how they made that leap. If the adamantium was just coated over his bones, how did the claws become razor sharp? Shouldn't they just have been metal bone spurs? I don't know. Okay. And that's pretty much the content. Is that the content? That's the content. And happy Mother's Day. So I guess that's the show. Next week, hopefully all the brothers will be here with me, and we'll wrap up the conclusion of X-Men 97, episode 10. Can't wait to see what happens. ETC says, hey, 30 minutes on Disney is actually 30 minutes. That's true, because on Fox, it's closer to 20. Because of the commercials. Yo, can I talk about commercials for a second? I'm really put out with all these platforms. I was watching an HBO. I told you I was watching HBO, the Crisis on Infinite Earth, the cartoon that maybe come out a year ago, part 1. And there was like 5 commercials interspersed throughout the content. I was on HBO and I pay for the platform, and they're still giving us commercials now. HBO's giving us commercials now. Anyway, insane. S says, thanks for the Mother's Day episode. Do what I can. And Corey says, please, Corey Pearson in the house. I guess he's saying, please end this episode. Anyway, listen, thanks for joining the show. I know it was really short. I didn't want to send you guys packing without a heads up because everything kind of happened last minute today. It's Mother's Day. People got lives, lots on our plates. But we love you guys. Thanks for seeing the show. Tell your friends about it. Next week, we'll have a proper episode. Like, comment. And if you don't like the show, tell your enemies about it. All right, now I've got to find out what button stops this live feed. Connie Alaska in the house says, love all, love all. S wants to keep going. Yeah, right. Good luck. We'll be back next week. And ETC always making the show worth it. All right, guys. Let me see. Oh, this is the button. All right. And